Hi, and welcome to our webinar on how to build an intranet with a wow factor. I'm Genevieve, and I'm from one of Atlassian's marketplace app vendors called Refined. And here with me today is Tina, a senior Atlassian consultant from Catworkx. So Tina's going to set the scene a little bit today, but essentially we're going to walk you through the steps to build a really awesome intranet for an organization. So over to you, Tina.
Thank you, Jen, and also welcome from me. Like Jen said, today we're going to build an intranet with 10 steps. So we're going to introduce you to like a 10-step program to migrate or transform the current intranet that they have into an intranet with a wow factor. So we're going to use Confluence and Refined doing that, and I'm going to set the scene. So what I've built is a basic intranet, which will, hopefully recognize from your place, because all the intranets that I've looked at, they all have the same theme going on. Like, when historically speaking, you've built it a couple of years back and then you added things on top of that. So this is an example of what could happen if, in your organization, your intranet just got bigger and bigger and maybe the responsibilities changed and so on. So with these 10 steps that we're going to introduce, we're going to try to structure your intranet in a new way and then move it to Confluence. And what I'd like to emphasize also is that the intranet that I'm showing you is not Confluence based, which means that whatever technology you have, a migration or transformation into refined themed intranet is really easy and needs those 10 steps. So I'm going to share my screen now and show you the intranet. So here we go. So this is basically the intranet that we've built. Or let's assume that this is what the customer has shown us. So we have an intranet that, actually doesn't look too bad. It's pretty. It uses the company colors blue. So you've got a menu at the top and you've got a menu at the side. And the first step in our 10 steps is content audit. So what you do is you analyze the content. And through this analysis, you also extract navigational items. So what do we need? What do I mean with that? Basically, you have your top menu. So the first thing I would look into is, well, there's human resources, which is obviously a department. At the same time, you've got the team overview there. So maybe, over the course of time, something happened that made it important that human resources was actually, on top of that menu structure. Or the other way around, you had all the departments on top of there and then decided to do a team overview. So you've got quite redundancies or things that you can actually already group together. Another thing is you've got a top menu, which opens up into sub-menus, and then you have a more button, which is also something that I've encountered a lot of times, that the menus just expand, they get bigger. And in this case, for example, we have quite an important header here. It's the email helpline. So if someone in your company needs support, or in this example, they would actually have to know to click on the more or hover over it to, write an email to the helpline or make a support request or whatever. And another thing is you've got a calendar here, and on there you've got current events. So, at first glance, or the first part of the analysis is you can actually reduce the menu structure quite a bit. Or at the side here, there are things like union information, IT team. Again, you've got the team overview on top, but you've got the IT team at the side as well, which is something that needs to be considered for a new structure. You've got the department. So, the same link probably leads to the same page, but is actually on top of here and there and has a different name. So naming is also a very important aspect when you analyze the content. And going down there, there's another menu box with, links to various other areas. The weather, for example, here is an external link that might be very important to that company. And another thing here, which, is mostly the starting page of intranets, is a news area. So in this case, I've got a timestamp and a header of what is actually or what happened on that day. Sometimes they are linked to some pages, other times they're not. But this is the first part of an analysis of your intranet, that we look at the color scheme. So you want to have your corporate identity still going with the new theme. You want to have probably a new menu structure, but at the same time, still make it very familiar for people using the internet that when, they see this one and then the new one, that they will recognize their most important links and will be able to navigate it straight away. So this was step one. You analyze the content and you think of the new menu structure. And then we move straight into step number 2, which is restructure the content. So based on the analysis, you build a new site structure and the new navigation elements. And you also think of what are the most important features of the old internet that the users definitely want to keep. So from this angle, for example, here, you interviewed the employees and they were like, well, the weather is, for example, very important. So we want to keep this and we want to definitely keep the team overview and so on. So I'm handing it over back to you, Jen, to show us how to restructure the content with Refined.
Thank you, Tina. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. All right, so Tina has done step 1, which is probably the most challenging step of all. The rest is smooth sailing. And what I've jumped into here that you can see is the Refined administration section of Refined for Confluence. So when you first come into the admin section, you'll end up on this configuration page. And the first thing you want to do here is name your site, apply a global look and feel to your site. And there's a few other smaller parameters that you can play around with. But in this step, what we're focusing on is building that structure on your site now that we've done the content audit. So we want to actually apply this in Refined. And the way that Refined works is you can have multiple sites connected to one Confluence like you see here, or you can choose to just have one global site depending on your use case. But what will happen is your Confluence spaces, if they're already existing, will be living here in the uncategorized section. And then it's just up to your team to add a site. So in this case, for the intranet, we're going to have a full site and we'll call it our intranet. I'll give it a proper heading. There we go. And now here you can see the site. And what we want to do is first build that top navigation menu. And as Tina mentioned, we want to better group the important topics into that top navigation menu. So the way you do that with Refined is you would add a category. So a category is the item that sits in the top navigation menu. So one we saw that they probably need is team overview to collect any spaces, Confluence spaces and documentation or links around that topic. They might add a second one, for example, which might be for documents. So you can get, oh, that one already exists. But yeah, you can get the idea of exactly how to set up that top navigation. And then what I would do is pull in. So you pull in the relevant spaces to that site. And I'll just click view now to show you an example of how that might look. So here you have your top navigation menu with team overview and the spaces beneath that. Now you'll notice that the theme is yellow, but Tina's customer has more of a purple theme. So that's easy. All you would do then on your site is click edit site. And then here we would change the theme from the default one we've set up to our intranet theme. And then I would save that. And I'll go back to, let's go navigate back to our example here. So it's our intranet. And now you can see they've got that nice, nice purple theme. So I'm going to jump back to Tina to take us to step 3.
All right, thank you very much. So step 3 is actually, for me, one of the best or the funniest steps to do, because this is where the whole thing actually comes alive. So in step 3, we will define a landing page, which is the first page that users will see when they open up the new intranet, which is a very important page because it will give the whole intranet its home and a feeling of where to navigate and how to use it. So I'm just quickly going to share my screen again. So step number 3, we have the creation of a landing page. So what are the things that we really need to think about? So first of all, obviously the customer's requirements, which is what we already established from step number 1, which means the most important shortcut. So what are the things that users definitely want to see on the first page? So it's not just the menu, but also the information that is provided. And also this is a chance to highlight what Confluence can do with content that can be modified by yourself. So it's not a very static page that you will have, but it's a very dynamic page. So what we try to incorporate with new intranets that are Confluence based is that, you know, you will have your, for example, in this case, your news area. But what we also would like to do is have content that is specifically for yourself. So in this old intranet, we will have to keep, for example, the weather or links to the statistics. But what's missing here is content that you as a user can then modify for yourself, which would mean spaces that are your favorite spaces, for example. So you would know at first glance the things that you want to see, or recent activities, which is something that is missing here and that we will incorporate in step number 3. So Jen, back to you now to show us how to create a really awesome landing page with Refined. So.
Okay, so we're now looking at Tina's customer's new intranet landing page. And what I've clicked here is the layout editor. So I've opened up what we call the inbuilt layout editor, which the administrator can control. And in this editor, you'll see it's made up of sections. And in each section, you have what we call modules. So for example, I might add a section and then I can select from a whole collection of modules as to what you want to have on your page. But in this case, so we know already from what Tina's mentioned that there are a few things that are really important to this customer. So for example, they wanted to have statistics on the front page. So we've added a navigation icon and we've got a direct link to the statistics page on the site. Company news was also really important to this intranet. So we've added a news module in there. And also they wanted to make sure they had quick access to the work they're currently working with. So we've added a My Work module there. It's up to you what else you want to add. There's a whole collection of options. You might want to add activity or whatever you feel. So we're going to publish this, and hopefully now you'll get a little bit of a wow factor sensation. So now we're looking at the customer's intranet. So these are the links I mentioned. Here you have the news module, how that comes out, and some quick links to My Work. And a hot tip is, especially if you're working with a block color on the background, is to add a nice image to really engage your users on that intranet. Okay, I'm going to go back to Tina to take us to the next step.
Thank you, Jen. So before I actually gave you a bit of a sneak preview into step number 4, which was creating a department dashboard, or a team dashboard. So we're going to look into the creation of a landing page for a certain area. So I'm going to quickly show you the old intranet, how it was solved there, and then show you how we're going to do it with Confluence and Refined. So in this example, you have team overview. So it's, it is an overview. So basically it does what it's promised. It gives you an overview of all the departments that have some sort of information in this intranet. But it's very bleak looking, to be honest, because it's just links. And also you've got the links at the top. And I don't know why, but somehow someone started the navigation at the side. So these are the things that we're also trying to get rid of in our new intranet. Which also means that, for example, we already moved the human resources into the team overview with our Refined themed intranet. And yeah, so basically what we will do now is create a new user experience, because it really helps if you have more navigational elements than just links. So you can actually add more information to a link. So Jen is going to show you that. And what we're going to introduce as well is using icons, which is a very cool method if you want to have a very unified viewing experience or user experience throughout the whole intranet. And another thing that I've mentioned before was the static content and the dynamic content. So in the current intranet that we're looking at, you have the Teams overview, and these are the links. That's about it. But with Confluence, what you can also achieve is to get more information on that team landing page. So we're going to introduce dynamic content, which in this case could be the recent activities that happen across all team spaces. So your landing page is not just navigating you towards, you know, the teams that have some information available or have their own spaces, but also giving you more information about what is happening across all teams, and shows you that on that first landing page. So back to you, Jen, to show us how to create a really awesome team landing page.
Thank you. Okay, so we've already looked at sort of the welcome page here, but now I'm going to show you how you can set up a landing page on a category. So I mentioned earlier that we call these top navigation sort of groups categories, and you have the option with Refined of making a kind of dashboard feeling on each of these categories. So in an intranet use case, this is a really good idea, because often the categories have information like Tina's customer has that are only relevant to that team category and that they want to display front and center. So in this example, we've used the same layout editor that I showed you before. So if I click here and I click edit category home, you'll be familiar with the same layout editor. And what we've added here is, once again, that nice image, some navigation icon links to relevant spaces that live in this category. And probably what I would do if I was this customer is I might, for instance, add a new section with what we call the activity stream, and then I can add that to the page so that the teams can see what's happening across the teams. And here you see a nice activity update there. Okay, and you can do the same across all categories. So for instance, we might add like customized the document category home, and same with projects. All right, back to you, Tina, to take us to the next step.
Thank you very much. So we're now on to step number 5. So step number 5 would be customizing a page. In our example, we're going to show you how to customize a team page, which is a really cool thing to do. That if you think about a layout or theming or any sort of structure for your teams to basically have at least the landing page be the same across all teams, which helps the users navigate through all the different spaces when it's all a very unified theme going on. And what we also will do is, I'll show you that in our slides. So we're going to do screen 1. So we're gonna, show you how teams can introduce themselves, which is also a very important part of how, for example, a Teams page can be set up. It's not all about just the information of the current activities of the team, but also about the people that work there. So in a big company, for example, you have a lot of staff changes going on, and you can actually see who's responsible for what within those team pages. And it also helps to have a consistent navigation across all teams. If you have one layout within a team page or a team landing page itself. So just to show you how the customer has solved it in our example. So, where we started off with was, for example, the marketing team, which had 3 links to MySpace, the Trello board, the marketing strategy. They also tried to introduce the team, and then, it slowly faded away, the efforts in this intranet or in, any other scenario that a team page could look like this. And for example, another department, let's say human resources, They also used buttons, but then they introduced another form of navigation. And everything in itself gives you the information you need and the structure, but it really doesn't look like the same user experience. So here you'd have these really big elements to click on. And for example, in the other team, you've got a different layout as well going on, so which can be confusing. So what we'll show you now is how to have the consistent navigation across the teams by building one team area, and in this case, it would be marketing. So Jen, show us how a cool team page can look like.
Great. All right. So if I navigate to marketing to start with, so this is the new version of the marketing home that Tina just showed you. And there was a couple of things that were really important to the marketing team to have here. So they've added those important things directly as quick links here on the page. One thing that was also clearly important to them was who's actually working on the team. So what we've added is a nice link to some information about the awesome team members on the marketing team. And once again, you can use this, what we call the content layout editor, to add quick links, like really engaging quick links to whatever it is in that marketing space that you want the marketing team to see first and foremost. And the way that I've added these nice links is I'll show you if I click the page editor here. So this will open up the Confluence editor that many of you might be familiar with. And here you can see we've added a refined macro called the content layout macro. So with that macro, you're able as the administrator to get the same editing layout that we had on the other pages before. So that's a really easy, quick way of building up this nice, like engaging and informational space for your teams. I'll quickly show you another example. So we have human resources. For instance, here you can see some other ways of using the content layout editor. So quick links to meetings, quick links to HR projects. Some more picture-based links. But yeah, you can have a bit of fun with how you do that. Okay, so back to you, Tina, for the next step.
Thank you very much. So step number 6 is where we'll show you how to now combine dynamic and static content. So what I said in the introduction was that sometimes the dynamic content can be missing. So information always has to be actually put in, typed in, copied, for example. If you have a project management office and you want to tell users what the current status of a project is, you'll maybe have to add some Excel sheets with the new project reports or the new statuses, and people have to open the Excel sheet. So the information is actually there, but there's a lot of manual work going on for the information to be actually accessible and always on currently updated. So I'll show you how the current or our starting intranet actually solved this. So what they did, they do have a project overview page, and they do have some links for the project managers or the team members. So the current PMO project management office page actually has all the information. You have a link to all the archive projects, project manager area, a rule set that project managers and team members can read through, and a list of current projects when you click on that. But like I said before, what is the actual status of a project? That has to be done by opening an Excel sheet, and someone is, maybe the project managers or the PMO head of, is putting in the attachments to create a status overview. And this is one area where we can highly improve and make it more efficient if we use Confluence with Refined to give you all this information without actually having to change the system or opening a document. Another example of how static content can be combined with dynamic content would be the statistics page here. So there's someone actually made an area for statistics, which is all great. But they also want to archive these. And the only way that was possible was with a menu structure like this. So, we'll get bigger and bigger, and actually the archived ones, the archived statistics, will not have to be deleted or anything, but they have to stay there. But it's quite an inconvenient form of presenting that. So what we're also going to do is show you another form of how to get, in this case, the statistics information and archive all on the same page. And sometimes, you know, statistics, for example, here, they don't have to be pretty. You have to have a diagram embedded in your page. And in this case, that's exactly what they did. They just put the statistics on that area. So all these diagrams and graphs show you some sort of information. What we will do in our configuration is also show you how to have the same information plus an extended explanation on the same page, and an archive all combined, so that you actually don't have to use a navigation structure like this. So step number 6 would be customizing a project or an information page, and an information page in our case would be the statistics. We'll show you how pages can show, you know, static information as well as dynamic content. And we create a really cool project dashboard, which, you know, it can be used for PMO, for example. So Jen, back to you to show us those 2 examples.
Great. Okay, so I'll start with the statistics page that Tina mentioned. So we'll use our nice quick navigation link. So now I'm looking at a Confluence space, or actually a page within the space called Statistics Home. And here on this page, you'll see we've already added like a collection of pages which have the archive statistics that Tina mentioned. But the really neat thing about Confluence is, rather than having to download documents all the time, get them lost in your desktop, you can keep it all online and all in the one system. So if I show you just a little bit of an example of how that works here, and then I'm going to show you the other example, so how say a project might work. So we're back on the project home. Here you can see some quick links to various parts of that project, and I'll actually go to the space here, and once again you can see, rather than having like endless amounts of pages lost in your files, it's all accessible from this one project space. Back to you, Tina, for the next step.
Thank you very much, Jen. Now we're on to step number 7, which is thinking about maintenance. So with maintenance, it's always quite a thing for our site administrators or any kind of administrator, that you want as little effort as possible to make a really cool site going. So you want the users to support the admin in such a way that the actual maintenance effort will be very low. So that means reusing of templates, for example, reusing content, not having redundant content. That is also a very important thing. So using what you already have, and we already showed it before with the project page. This is also a thing where you don't need to have any attachments going on. This is also one form of maintenance. And another form, and I'll show you on the slides now, is the maintenance templates. So one very important aspect is using templates, so that whatever users create, they'll have some sort of wizard and some sort of underlying layout going on that they will reuse and add their content, so it always looks the same. So what you then don't have to do is actually see all the work your users have done, and maybe afterwards go through it and, you know, redesign it, because it doesn't really fit the overall design of the whole company page. So you have one team that will do their thing in, I don't know, structure number blue and red, and the other one will do it yellow and orange, but you really don't want that. And it also makes it harder for the users if they can actually drag and drop too many things in it. So with templates, you actually have one set, and you'll be like, this is the team layout, this is how we want you to do it. And it helps the users to do exactly a layout and a theme the way you want it. And it's a, you know, it's a great way to actually have a really cool content going, because what you do is the users then don't have to always reinvent the wheel, because they use their template to then create content that is always in the same structure. So from a navigational point of view and from the user experience, you have a very nice and unified theme across the whole Confluence Refined environment that you already set up. And Jen will now show you 2 ways of how to use templates.
Okay, thanks, Tina. Yeah, so maintenance is one of my favorite topics, and I've got 2 sort of straightforward ways of helping your maintenance over the long term. The first one is to work with copying your layouts. So I've already mentioned when we were on the team overview, for instance, this is what we call a layout. Also, when we were on the HR page, I mentioned the content layout we've used here. So both of these you're able to export and then import to another page. So this is a really easy way of building up your site in the beginning so that it's much more efficient to build it up. And second to that, it makes it easier over the long term, so you've got consistency. But what I'll do, I'll show you how you do this. So let's say we want to export this layout. You open up the editor, click import export, download current version, and then I'll have saved that one. And then what we're going to do is navigate to the IT department, because this is where I would like to put, as you can see, we haven't got much on the IT department home. So the first thing I'll do is add the content layout macro, update that. And here you can see the macro is here, and I'll import that exported layout to this page. Save that, and here you see we've got that nice page, that nice layout that we had on the HR home. You may need to change a few things. For instance, HR project now might be something more like IT projects, but you get the idea of how you can work with that. So yes, exporting, importing layouts, really hot tip. Second, really good way of helping with long-term maintenance is working with what we call space layout templates. So here on the side, you'll see we have a number of quick links to various things that are relevant to this team. The way we've done that is we've used the space layout editor. So I can open that up here. And then you can see we've built up this side navigation using Confluence macros. So the cool part about this is you can actually save this layout. So you can save this side navigation bar as a template. And then therefore, that means you could use the same space layout template for every team. So here, for instance, I would click choose a space layout. And in this case, it's the team home space layout, which we already had there. And maybe I want to apply that same one to marketing. So we would go into the marketing, go to the space layout, view space layout, and choose that team home space template. Save that, and boom, now you can see they've got all those relevant teamy things on the side there. So yeah, 2 hot tips for you to work with when it comes to maintenance. Back to you, Tina.
Thank you very much. And now we're already at step number 8. So far we've configured landing pages. We thought about the structure of things. We combined dynamic and static content. And now we're going into the configuration of the details, which step number 8 is thinking about permissions. So I'll share my screen again to show you in the slides. So assigning permissions is a very important factor, because you will have user groups which are allowed to see certain areas, or some groups which are not allowed to edit some form of content. And Refined and Confluence combined give you a very good and consistent permission scheme to protect your content. So what we will show you now is have one area where you only want the executive board, for example, to access it, which highlights the fact that in an intranet you want all the information stored in one platform, in one area, and you just add a permission scheme so that only the relevant people can actually access the information, which will then save you trouble if you have some sort of document that can only be viewed or edited by a certain group of people to have it in a different location. You have everything in your Confluence area, and then with the permission schemes, you actually tell the system who can look at the content or who can do whatever with it. And you can also extend that with Refined and show certain navigational areas or hide them from people or user groups. So Jen, show us the permissions, please. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So I'll show you an example of how this customer used it. So to do this, we're going to go into the Refined admin section, and the place you manage your site permissions is once again in the site builder. So what you can do here is every space can have defined user groups. So for example, you might want to have, say, a customer group using the knowledge-based site and your employee group using the global site. And in this example today, so if we stick with our customer intranet example, let's say this customer has a group of executives, and they want a section on their intranet that only executives can access, and this is very important to them. So what they would do is create the category, which will sit in the top navigation menu, and to make that only accessible to the executives, they would edit the category home, and then if you scroll down here, you'll see a section called View Permissions, and here you want to say, actually, I only want to show this to executives. And that's a pre-existing Confluence group that we already created. So we know the users who are in that. Save that. And now you'll see clearly from the admin view that this category has a lock on it, which means there's some sort of permission added. So if we go back to, well, I think you can't see I need to actually share the whole screen again. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Okay, so if I'm back here, now you'll see the executive category, which I can see because I'm the administrator, but as a normal logging in employee, I wouldn't be able to see that because that's now only exclusive to the executives. And with the site permissions, so here you can see in this example, we have a lot of different sites. So I would only be able to see the sites that I've been given permission to see. So yeah, very powerful way of working with permissions there. And I'm going to pass it back to Tina to bring us down to our last two steps.
Thank you, Jen. So we're now on step number 9. Step number 9 is something that also needs to be considered, which is working with news and announcement. So in this intranet, for example, the home screen, what I also encountered in a lot of intranets is that the first page is always about getting the most important information across. So you turn on your laptop, your computer in the morning, and the first thing you see is the news and some sort of list or any other form where you have a timestamp and an information, and it will actually highlight what is happening. But the problem with that is that, you know, if a lot is going on throughout the whole day, or you might have been away for a week or a couple of days, then most solutions, the news areas, if it's in a table form or some sort of list, the actual important news, you know, will get passed down and down and down when new information is added at the top. So you always have to consider how you will actually get news and announcements that are very important across the whole intranet without using this area here, because like I said before, it's a very dynamic area. So, you know, it could slip if there's some sort of very important information, if there is a lot going on and you've just added things on top. And we will now show you how to share some news and announcements using a very cool new feature that got introduced in the latest release of Refined.
Okay, so I'm gonna share again. Okay, so once again, I'm back in the Refined admin section, and I'm going to show you how to create announcements. And like Tina mentioned, we only released this just around a month ago in the 7.0 release. But yeah, very simply, all you need to do is click create an announcement. And let's say it might be join the after work drinks on Friday. You could add a link to that if you want. You can select the location. So in this case, we want it on all sites. You can decide if you want it to be closed and if you want it published now. And this one's more of a fun one, not a warning. So we'll save that one. And then if I navigate back to the site and click refresh, oops. Oh, and we can't see it. Why not? Let's go back and look here. All sites. We might have to cut this section out too. What's wrong with
I don't know. I'll go as well.
Your changes have been saved. Where is it?
Yeah, it's online now.
Oh, I just need to scroll up. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this section again right now. Hold on. Let's delete that. Okay, starting now. Okay, so I've now opened up the Refined admin section again, and we're on this tab called Announcements. So this is a new tab that we added with the 7.0 release of Refined for Confluence. And very simply, all you need to do to create your announcement is click create announcement, and let's say join us for drinks on Friday. Maybe you want to add a URL link to sign up for that. We'll put it on all sites. We'll make it closable and published, and we'll call it an info. So we'll save that one. And then I'm going to navigate to this one. And yeah, there you can see we have the join us for drinks on Friday banner is now up on there. So it's a very neat way of putting out either maybe urgent warnings or fun announcements. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to Tina for our final step.
Thank you very much. And now we're actually on our last step, which is the most important steps of all the steps we've shown you now. And let me just go on it. And step number 10 is actually be proud of your work and hopefully have a really awesome virtual or whatever kind of party to highlight the fact that you migrated from something, looking like this to actually, and when I go and check it out, to something looking and something great actually like this. So hopefully, we showed you that a migration or a transformation with 10 steps can get you from an intranet, which, looks all right, has all the information you need, into a very dynamic, very modern, and from a maintenance perspective, very efficient, usable intranet using Confluence and Refined. Now, Jen, back to you.
Great. So I'm just going to finish up today by showing you a few examples. So if I just present this one, so a few other intranet examples to give you some inspiration. So here you have a decibel example. This is actually our own company's intranet. So a little sneak peek for you there. This one we built with our cloud app. So the one we've showed you today is our server data center app called Refined for Confluence server, but we also have a cloud version, which is Refined for Confluence Cloud. So yes, all of this is possible. Here's another example of an intranet and different ways you can work with it. This one would be more of an extranet example. So a university wanting more, using it more like a knowledge base. And then another little example for you there. So yeah, once again, if you are interested in making this happen, Catworkx are excellent at this. Tina especially has made many intranets for customers before, and she understands both the customer side and the consulting side. So definitely recommend shooting them a message. And yeah, we'll just finish up today by thanking you all, and we wish you all the best intranet site building.
See ya.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.